can't, that's okay. We're going to go with 1, 2, 3. Step. Little knee, little elbow, hammer, another elbow. Push. I don't like being pushed, so start that way, spread that way. Then move into the elbows. You see that next one.
Hey guys, Harry from Galaxy Crown Bath here, and for today's video I was originally planning to just post the footage up without much explanation or an intro, but I think it illustrates an important point about training in general, and an important concept about training, and it's this, that no training can be 100% realistic, or yeah, no training can be 100% realistic, and each time it's going to be an approximation. And there's an approximation either because of level of force used or power. There's an approximation because you're hitting pads rather than the person. There's an approximation because you have safety gear on, or you change the rule set. And what I mean is that if you were to just fight 100% every time you trained, then you very rapidly run out of training partners and you wouldn't actually get any training in whatsoever. But likewise, even if you find a really, really good set of sparring partners, say for combat sports, it's not quite the same as when you step into the ring for that, certainly for the first time, and even time after time with an opponent who genuinely means you harm. You don't know them that well because you haven't been training together on the same team, you're unfamiliar with them, it's a different setting, there's a load of other pressure, and it's just a kind of one-time performance. Whereas, sparring in the gym on some random Tuesday or something with someone that you're familiar with, even if they're really trying to hit you very, very hard, is close, but it's not 100% there. And likewise, things with, say, elbow strikes or whatever it is in MMA, you either practice the elbow strikes, but the person on the receiving end has a helmet on, and the person on the giving end has elbow pads, or you're practicing kickboxing sparring, and you've got the big 16-ounce gloves and shin pads on, just so you don't really damage your hardware or your training partner's hardware. Whereas when it comes to fight night, you've got tiny little 4-ounce gloves on and no shin pads. It makes a difference. So what's the best way we can approach this? Well, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think it has to be an approximation each time, but you have to have like a variety of methods of approaching the same problem. So if you imagine like a Rubik's Cube, if you know what a Rubik's Cube is, where it's all jumbled up and there's 9 squares on each face of a cube, and you're meant to kind of twist and turn the cube until you get all the same colors on each side. And if you just look at it from one side, you're only going to see 1/6 of the problem. But then if you turn it slightly and look at it at a different angle, you go, I'm building a bigger picture of what's happening here. But then if you turn it again and look at it from a different dimension, you get a more and more complete picture. So the more ways in which you can look at this complicated entity, this complicated object, the more complete a picture you can build up. So going back to our example of training, you can strike with full power on the heavy bag, but as we all know, bags don't hit back. Heavy bags don't hit back. They move a little bit and they swing, and you can use that touch, but they're not trying to hit you back, and they're not really moving around long range. Likewise, you could use focus pads or tie pads, and they're a bit more versatile in the targets they present themselves, and at least there's a person holding them you can start to use to target in your mind, and think yourself into, I'm striking a person, I'm not just striking a pad. You can start to train yourself mentally that way as well. It's like the difference if you do shooting, between shooting a bullseye target and shooting like a human-shaped target. But still, with pads, the range is off, and they're probably not hitting you back in the same way as if you were sparring somebody. So now you can do sparring with somebody, but like we said earlier, throwing knees and elbows, you're not going to be hitting that person with full power unless you're really going to burn through training partners very rapidly. So there's a compromise in sparring with the power used, maybe with the rule set used. So we say, cool, we're going to spar for MMA, but we're doing striking only. So as soon as we get to clinch or you set the rules, right? As soon as we get to clinch, we're going to separate and do our long range striking. Or you're sparring grappling only, so you start on the ground, there's no takedown element in that. Or you're sparring wrestling only, and as soon as you break, you don't do any striking, but you go back into wrestling. So you've modified the rule set to train a particular area. You're looking at your Rubik's Cube from one side and not another. So that's what applies here in this clip. We've got some striking on focus pads where I can hit something a little bit harder than I'd normally hit one of my training partners who I like. So I do get some practice in of what it feels like to hit something that has some resistance when I'm hitting with a little bit of power and a little bit of force. I then kind of show it what it looks like when you're hitting a person. Of course, I have to reduce the power a lot, but it gets me the correct targeting and the correct distancing. And we then put it into some kind of combination. Now, it's not full-on sparring, but at least when my partner's pushing me, I've got to try and time what's happening a little bit. So I'm working on my timing. But again, we've modified the rule set. We're not talking to each other. You can't swing any particular shot at me. So there's compromise in there too. And there's other ways you can look at it, but I just wanted to get across that principle that no training is 100% kind of real, not 100% realistic. And the best we can do is approximate it from different angles. And as long as you get enough angles and there's close enough approximation, and also appreciate the compromise you're making with any particular type of training, then I think that's okay, and that's the best we can do. Okay, enjoy the clip. Catch you soon.
Okay. Just going to work with the pads a little bit here. I'm going to build up to the combination. So the first part, which is probably the most important part, is you'll get hit. I'm getting back. See how each time I'm resetting to hands low, not really ready. I can make it a little easier by having myself in my conversational position here. Unwind. Hopefully that's enough. Create space, get an escape. If not, that's okay, we're going to go with our father. Knee, hand with the elbow, hammer again, elbow pass. Again, to start with, I'm at his punching range. If I want to change range and still engage with him, I need to go a little bit closer to use my elbows. Take the opportunity to knee him a little bit, make him land on the point of my elbow while I'm covering up. Another hammer, another elbow. Focus on a person. 1, 2, 3. Step. Little knee, little elbow, hammer, another elbow. We try it with pads? Yep. Sweet. So a quick recap of what we've done. So you're just going to push. I don't like being pushed, so I start that way, spread it right inside. Then I move in to tap 2, use my elbows. You see that? That's fine. Please don't push me. Next one. So this is like a mess up the push. 1, 2, 3. Overdo this, I'm going to hit to the outside. Leave me alone. Oh, you knew what was happening. Yeah, okay, still there. So the difference here is, on the first option we did, I kind of hammered his hand out the way, but brought my right hand back. So I'm chambered on the inside. Go here. This time, for whatever reason, to overdo it. See, now my hand is passed in, chambered to go on the outside. Remember on the outside, that was maybe going to bring a pad further over. That's the one. We're going to do our same thing. I can pick that up. It's nice. Of course. Everything I like here. Too far over, go on the outside. Down. Can we try it? Yep. Obviously, this might be overkill for somebody just pushing you. Hey, push to the key, what are you doing? Oh, sorry. Cool. So it's up to you how many pushes you allow. Excuse me, fine sir, that might be a little much. Okay, it's on. Alright, here we go. That's your choice. We try it? Hit, kind of over parry, chamber on the outside.